All right. So I'd originally thought that you guys, as Awakened Souls, started with that first EP that came out in like 2018. But while I was researching this, I learned that some of your music from the Music for Adverts and Films album were written back in like 2015. So is that when it started? You guys started working together, or?
You want me to take this?
Sure.
Actually, we started pretty much within the first couple of days of meeting each other.
Oh,
We
wow.
started writing music together. That was like the cornerstone of sort of our relationship. That's how it started. We wrote an album, and there's an EP of our little falling in love moment. It's up on Spotify. We had a different name that we were using called Cyntillas,
Oh, wow.
Syntillas, and it's an EP called the Sparks EP. It's definitely more like indie electronic. Cynthia's vocals are much more upfront. They're more like sort of, verse chorus kind of vibe. But that was where we actually started making music together. And then the Awakened Souls material that was something that initially it was something for us we were just starting to jot down ideas, but there was a reason and how that whole process of shifting from the more pop stuff to the more indie electronic stuff to the more ambient happened because of a specific piece of gear, which I'll let Cynthia talk about.
Yeah,
That
and
sort of started that.
yeah, with Cyntillas, on that EP, there's a song called Lundy Lake that already shows that we were headed towards ambient.
Mm-hmm.
We had our first trip that we ever took together was in the Eastern Sierras in California, and we recorded. We were recording sounds and stayed at a place called Lundy Lake, and so that I think already hinted at where we were headed. And in some ways it's funny because that EP, like, I'm okay talking about it now, but for a while I was like, I just
She didn't want anyone to
like,
know about it.
well,
She's like, keep it secret.
I mean, the main thing you need to know about this is James is an electronic musician.
Yes.
And had not worked with vocal production.
Well,
a lot.
I was really perfectionist, and I was going in and fixing like every pitch on her vocals to the point where it was pretty artificial. Like, I mean, by today's standards, no one's even to think anything of it. It'd just be like, whatever, that's just how vocals sound. But like for her too, she was just like, that's not my voice. It doesn't sound like me, because I really made it pure. I went in and did all Melodyne and really kind of took away a lot of the human elements of it. And I'm very sorry, and I won't ever do that to your voice again.
So I'm looking forward to you listening to that. There is one song on there that I absolutely love called Right Here.
Yeah.
And so that one is definitely...
it's pretty special.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. But with Awakened Souls, when we first met, we were living... that's a whole other story.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other story.
We were staying in Central California. I was living... when we met, I was a single mom with my 4-year-old. At the time, and living out in the Central Valley, and I had my own like little music room, and but I wasn't really recording, so much. So meeting James was just like this entrance into like finally being able to have the actual mindset to finish things. I just had all these songs sitting there that I would just play, but I didn't really ever properly record them prior to that. But then when we moved to Huntington Beach, which happened not actually that far after we met, we met in April of 2014, and then it was we moved in together in July.
Oh, wow.
I moved like across the state, and then October our whole family then ended up moving in together, and that was quite a journey in itself. But then it was really once we settled in Huntington Beach in November of 2014 that we had like a music setup in our room. And then 2016 was when you got me the RC505.
RC505, yeah.
And that set everything.
Yeah.
But for you and for me, because what we would do is at night, we would take turns. He would do a loop, then I would do a loop. Oh, cool. And then sometimes it would be just my loops, just his loops. Yeah. And so we
still have stuff we have to dig through. There's so much of that material. I mean, even some of the stuff that ended up becoming the first Awakened Souls album, the music for adverts and film, all of that. Then that's the music for adverts and film release is actually just a small collection of I don't know, hundreds of songs that we did for a music library.
Wow.
So there's like a bunch of our stuff as Awakened Souls on this music library that's unreleased stuff that no one else has heard, but that's there. And then there's even more that are sitting in the RC505 that at some point we might go back and get to, but we just keep making more, so it's hard to go back.
And currently, we're not using that so much as in our workflow.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of just do looping in Ableton instead of with the RC505, but I have been feeling like going back to it soon. I'm going to do a live performance this fall, and that really is the root of a lot of this. So I just, I feel like there could be some good flow with that. I'm going to experiment though.
For sure.
But yeah, so that really was, it was our nightly loops.
Yeah.
And that's what turned into Awakened Souls.
Yeah. That's kind of also when the name happened too, that's a whole nother fun story.
Yeah.
Awakened Souls.
I was about to ask about anyways, so you know, continue on there. I'd love to know how that started.
How do we say this? We are not overly religious people. Mm-hmm. So I think that maybe is the first misconception that maybe people might have upon seeing our name or hearing our name, is that it's somehow related to some ideology or religion, and it's not. Mm-hmm. And for us, like, it kind of came about because we were both huge fans of an artist, Sad Souls. Okay. That if you haven't heard his music, it's absolutely gorgeous. And we would listen to his stuff a lot, and we just kind of got vibe and energy, and then we're like, man, you know, this music isn't sad though, like, you know, and we don't want to have like if we're going to do that kind of music that like is ambient and encompassing, I mean, there's going to be elements of feeling sadness, but we don't want it to make someone, you know, like feel sad. Yeah. I mean, if sadness comes up for you, then maybe that's a way to work through it, but like to like cause depression, I don't know, like we're not intending on causing depression, right? So we wanted to like, we'll be Awakened Souls. And of course it was in a moment of, you know, inspiration, silliness.
And I was also, I mean, we are spiritual people, and I definitely read a lot of Buddhist philosophy, and I was reading a lot of Pema Chodron at that time, and I still do. But that was, you know, she talks about the awakened path a lot, and so that came through. That was my end of that, especially. I mean,
and then I tagged it onto the Souls. I was like, we should be Awakened Souls. And she's like, oh, maybe. And then we put the EP out. And then, like, now the name's stuck. And you know, there are months where Cynthia's like, can we just change the name? What if we just change the name and then, like, just, like, make it the new name, but, like, all the same music? But, so, yeah, it's a struggle sometimes with the name. But we are going to keep it.
Writing music for us always comes, like, as a way of processing our days. Yeah. And so it really is like, if, you know, it is the path for us to continue to try to be the best versions of ourselves, because we are processing things. We are letting it out. We're not like, you know, just letting it all be stagnant, you know? And so I definitely believe in moving the energy. And so that's a big part of it. So in some ways, you know,
I mean, for me, you know, in the years that I've done it in the past, and something that's different about us is that Cynthia has a lot of journals. She has a lot of what she experiences. She does write journaling. I've not been a person to journal in word. Yeah. For me, journaling was always in music. Yeah. And it was never, I didn't never have lyrics. It was always melodies. It was always a feeling, an emotion, something to capture wherever I was at that night. And for me, you know, starting in the 90s and doing this stuff, it was not easy because everything was all hardware and everything was like, you know, recording down the DAT and don't mess up. Otherwise, you got to take it again from the top. Like, so I learned how to get real good at just trying to connect quickly to what does it feel like and how can I capture it now? And that is still what I do. Even to this day, I'm not someone that I would consider, I guess I wish I had the drive and the desire to read and to really jot down some of my thoughts, but I don't. Yeah. And I do it in music, and I just like that's been and that's continued. And then for us, she is amazing because she does it both in journaling and words, which is to me magic, to be able to connect that feeling and then put it in words and have someone else feel it too is magic. You know, I can only do it in music. So you're leaps and bounds above being able to do it both in words and music. I'm amazed to watch it.
Thank you. Well, I think that what we're doing, especially with Awakened Souls music, though, is we're capturing what we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it really is like,
which as parents of teens is a roller coaster,
Yeah.
you know, and there's a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and twists and turns, but it's a journey of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of our songs don't have a lot of words, and on my own songs too, it's more about like phrases and
Mantras.
Yeah, more like mantras for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it really does, like, I also think it's beautiful that you have all these, so many years of these musical journals.
Yeah.
You know?
I've been torturing people with my music for a long time now, yes. Sorry, everyone. Can't help it.
For sure. So yeah, you guys using it as a sort of tool for like journaling and like, in a way, and like, you know, getting past things in your real life. I'm wondering how you sort of sift through ideas then to want to be able to release them. You know what I mean? So if like they're so personal and have gotten you through something, do you look at them differently because of that? Or are you still able to be like self-critical for the release process?
You want me to?
Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
I mean, for me, and it's probably highly unusual, I know a lot of my friends, when I talk to them that are also musicians, I listen to my music all the time.
Wow.
So it's not just I listen, I make it and it's gone and that's it. I continually listen to releases that I've done in the past, currently working on, not working on. I created a world and I like to live there. And I think that's kind of for us too. We both listen to our music a lot. It's hard to decide like, well, what's going to be, okay, now it's releasable or it's not releasable. It's really about what feels right as a collection. And I think that's what we always come back to when I'm making an album. And I know that Cynthia puts a lot of time into the vibe, how the flow is, what songs work together, what songs are sort of encompassing this space or this energy, and what songs are the opposite or maybe encompassing something that's adjacent or have you. But it's a lot of, I just all feel. I think it really all comes down to feel for us. Like we totally make decisions with our hearts when it comes to music.
Well, and I mean, I think a good example of that is as we're in the album writing process, you know, this is also our bedroom where this call is taking place.
Yeah, you're in the bedroom with us.
I am touching my bed right now, literally. So where we're making it and where we sleep, like this is our little world. But what we'll do is after we write things, and this happened with Night Songs and was part of the description of Night Songs too. We would listen to the songs.
Buy your copy. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'd listen to the songs and then we'd lay down in bed and like both have our headphones on, and we even like we'll look at each other and like be like 3, 2, 1, press play.
So we want to the journey at the same time.
Yeah, and so we know that we're in the same place at the same time. And so when that is taken to the album level, that like ramps up a bit where it's like we have to listen to it as a full collection.
Yep.
Now, all of our records really are like capturing these moments, you know. It's not like we're pulling from songs from too many different areas. They're usually all written within the same period of time. So that, you know, makes, I guess, the sifting through a little bit more fluid because they're all part of what those few months were for us, or what that, you know, 6-month period. I don't think we've taken longer than 6 months to really write a full record.
Probably not.
But yeah, that's a big part of it, is capturing that time. And so then when we go back and listen to it, it really does bring us back to that time because they're all written within that.
Yeah, like chunk. For example, How We Heal, like that album or that collection of all of those works, that's pretty much an autobiography. Like it was us healing. It was written during a time early in the pandemic where we were just going. There's a lot of stuff going on, and we were really processing a lot.
Well, we started that even prior to the pandemic.
But then we were working through it during, and
Mm-hmm. But that album really started when we had quit alcohol.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
We stopped drinking, and then we really just like deep dove into like these
That was it. Yeah.
nightly explorations, and really would go back and forth, sometimes playing at the same time, but a lot of times we take turns, you know, where it's like one of us is like, do you want to start the song? Or so we definitely have, like, it's not like James always starts a track or I always start a track. We really take turns with that, and it's just really where we are in that moment. But that was really, for me, I mean, at least that's what I feel a lot about How We Heal, was that was definitely processing our decision to just stop drinking, which, you know, was something we just realized we didn't need. And as you can see, since that happened, our creativity has
we finished a whole lot more after that. Albums and albums and stuff came out, and just it was got a lot more time on our hands. So
well, not even just time, but just
drive,
clarity,
energy, and drive.
Yeah, I think just clarity, and I mean, you've released albums and albums upon albums, so that you have been, you know, able to finish things in the past. But
there's a lot I didn't. For the ones that I released, there's probably about 10 or 12 more that weren't. You know, as far as albums, there's a lot.
For sure.
But,
So, in terms of quitting drinking, are you guys like totally sober now, or just like you slowed down a bit?
No alcohol. We haven't had it in where are we at now?
almost 4 years.
Wow. Almost 4 years.
Congratulations.
And no desire either. I mean, it was one of those things for us that as soon as we stopped, well, not as soon, but shortly after we stopped and we started to see and feel this clarity, being able to process so much of what life had thrown at us in our lives, we just started to just kind of reassess. Like, first of all, when we stopped, we were like, we're just going to stop for a while and we'll see how it goes. Mm-hmm. And then it was just like, I
just really liked it. I mean, it doesn't,
like this,
and it's not like there were like, of course, I think anybody who has alcohol at some point will have something come up that maybe they're not proud of. So of course we had those moments, throughout time, but it was really just an experiment that turned into something that we really it was revealed so quickly that like it was the right way for us, with no judgment of anybody else who has their own versions of. But for us, it just became really clear, and that's been a big part of our creativity in the last few years too. So
for sure. Well, congratulations. That's a big one, and I know a lot of people struggle with it, and sometimes just hearing that other people can do it, helps other people, and that's always a good thing. But you definitely can see it, like ever since 2020, I guess. You guys have become like a staple in ambient, not only Awakened Souls, but Marine Eyes and James Bernard.
Thank you.
Like, it's really cool to be able to see that. So I guess this explains a lot now,
It's coming from the heart, man. It's definitely coming from the heart.
Well, and in terms of Marine Eyes, like for me, once we were doing things and, as Awakened Souls, and I was, James was definitely handling a lot of like, the recording side of things. It was definitely COVID and not having to drive here, there, and everywhere with the kids, and being at home more, that just had me deep dive into learning it on my own with the best teacher possible directly behind me at all times, doing what he's doing in the room, or just that he wasn't here, just always ready to help me. So it's and still does, I'm still able to learn.
It's been amazing to watch. I mean, you went from, looping on RC 505, and getting the timing and stuff and working with that and then learning that and mastering that, to going to Ableton and then just doing everything on your own, to the point where like, you're mixing, you're doing everything. You're killing it. Now you're like getting into manipulating samples and chopping stuff up. And so you're just slaying.
Thank you. And I can just play into what we're doing too.
Of course.
For sure. So when you guys are working on something, do you ever work on something and like there's no way this could be an Awakened Souls thing. It's like too personal. It has to be Marine Eyes, or it has to be a James Bernard track.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Absolutely. No, we've got folders we kind of share the same main computer, which unfortunately we do need to get one new one. This poor little guy this poor little guy is really, it's like a more than 10-year-old Mac Mini. So we gotta upgrade. But so we share the same computer for our main sessions. So we've got our own folders on the hard drives and stuff. And we usually know pretty early on, and I feel for me, if a song feels like this is going to be an Awakened Souls thing, I can just tell by the frequencies that are missing. I don't know, it's the best way. It's like I'll do something and I'll be like, yeah, this feels okay, but it's missing. Cynthia belongs here, and in this place. And I can tell pretty quickly. Or it's like the flow feels more like something that will be, here's her place. It's like it's ready for a handoff kind of thing. And sometimes I'm just being super self-indulgent and there's no room for anyone, because I'm just all over the spectrum and all over the place rhythmically, and it's just never going to work. And so I'll just do my thing. So for her, what do you feel when you're working?
Yeah, I think it's more of like sitting down to say, are we writing a track together tonight, or something like that. I mean, and that happened just like about a little bit over a week ago. We had gone out to this mountain nearby called Mount Pinos. And it was our first time going to like the summit area, which is, I think 8,700 feet.
Yeah, I think 88, 87 there.
Wow.
But we both were separately recording sounds. It was so quiet out there. I mean, it was
no planes,
so
nothing.
incredible. No planes.
Amazing. In California, that's rare.
And there was
Southern
still,
California.
Yeah, and there was still some snow melt. There's definitely still some snow up there, and so all the little streams created from the snow melting and just the birds and everything. So we both had we were out there together, also enjoying the silence and also doing our own recordings. And then so on the drive home, I'm like, hey, we should do something tonight. Like we should write a song with that.
Yeah. And
so then I started it, and it's a collage of his field recordings, my field recordings, just kind of like. That was the basis of how it began. And then we both ended up taking turns. So I think it's pretty.
I haven't heard it since. I have to listen to that tonight. Really, I forgot about that.
It's really, really pretty. And it captured a bit of that peaceful moment. Just being somewhere without planes is super cool.
Oh my gosh,
people, you should go try that.
For sure.
Find it. It's hard. It's hard to find that. So when you do get to experience that, it's just it's beautiful. It really is. So I think most of the time I pretty much know if I'm going to sit down and do something Marine Eyes or if it's going to be Awakened Souls. But I have a song called Safe that I released for the end of the year on Bandcamp last year.
Yeah.
And it's my song, but that was one example where I was like, it needs James's bass line on it, but it still felt like a Marine Eyes song.
Yeah.
And so I had you add bass, and I haven't done that a ton, but it just felt really right in that moment. So it's cool to have that, obviously for both of us that, we can just be there for each other in our own works too.
Oh yeah, no, there's
if
some...
we need, and if we really feel called to that. But it was just so distinct that wasn't, now this is an Awakened Soul song. It still felt so much like a Marine Eyes song. So we haven't hit too many hurdles with that.
No, we've never had an issue where it's like, oh, this has to be this has to be that. If anything, we have just too many to choose from. I mean, it literally is a bit of a problem. I mean, we have so many songs sitting in folders right now. I mean, we forget about them. We do that because it is our, like we said, it's our process. It's our way to get through the day. So a lot of times we'll do it, and it's like end of the day, we pass out, whatever. We may not even get to listen to it for a couple more days because of the way schedules might have worked out and stuff. And so we end up forgetting about a lot of music. I know there's an entire folder in there of stuff that we were supposed to do for an album that we still need to look at.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the process too, though, is letting those things out and not feeling like everything has to be completed, or not feeling like everything has to be part of an album, so we do have these random things, but it's like we were saying before, we know when it's going to be an album, and because
when
it's
we're
like,
feeling that.
yeah, you're in album creation mode. You're in the well, you know, and I feel like for me, and I know for you, that when you're doing that, it's just like, you're in. I think you're like that too, Brady.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Exactly.
or you're like, I'm in it right now. So yeah, we'll see what we do with all those other ideas.
For sure. With that being said, I mean, this year you guys have only come out with one single, and so yeah, since How We Heal, there hasn't been How We Heal, Night Songs. There hasn't been too many, tracks or anything coming up for Awakened Souls. Do you guys have stuff planned currently?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an album coming in. The release date is it August now, right?
It's in August.
Yeah, so it's coming in August. We're going to be starting to roll out singles next month, right? Or later this month.
I think July.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Or next month, so July, not June. Yeah. So we're going to start rolling singles out soon on that one. But that is actually an album that we completed roughly around the same time as. What was that?
That was soon after How We Heal.
Soon after How We Heal.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was in between How We Heal and KTOS, right? Wasn't it like around that time or just before KTOS got started that we were doing Keep the Orange Song, which is the collaboration that we did with our friend Kevin from overseas. So it's kind of like.
Well, that was also with The Other Side of Darkness too.
That's right. Yeah, they kind of all intersected there.
But yeah, they were all written in 2020.
Yeah.
So
these songs have been.
No, actually, they were not.
Some of them were earlier.
We added 2 songs in, that are like more like interlude style tracks, and those ones were ideas that we had later because we had let this album sit and we were going to release it, and then we didn't, and then we thought about doing it, so we revisited it. This last year, we remixed it. James mastered it as well, and we didn't really add too many parts, but we did add those 2 interlude tracks that were they just felt right. They just felt like they fit with it. But there's a lot of different sides to us on this album, though. It's not just one thing at all. So we're really excited about it. It shows like some of our love of shoegaze. We have one track that's definitely very shoegaze leaning, some drone, some more synth, heavy stuff, and more
synth leaning, sort of ambient stuff. But yeah, it's a collection of a lot of different vibes of ours and feelings of ours that I'm excited for it to come out. But we could say the name of it. It's Unlikely Places. Is the name of the album. So.
Good name.
And that will be on Past Inside.
And that'll be on Past Inside.
Oh, very nice.
That's Inside the Present. Yes.
So does this one continue the pattern of like all lowercase letters?
Yes, as much as possible.
What is the deal with this? Why is that a thing?
I mean, our name's Awakened Souls. If we capitalize everything, that's really obvious and blatant and super in your face. So we try to play down everything a little bit more. It's just something about. I know that for Cynthia, she always loves lowercase everything. And there is something about being a little less, overstated, a little understated, and just keeping things in sort of lowercase, a little less, I don't know. What's your vibe on it?
For me, I usually journal in lowercase.
Oh, cool.
I don't, and I usually write in lowercase, and I
actually write all in uppercase. I write everything in capitals because of drafting school when I was younger, and I just that's what we're totally
Yeah, you do write.
I'm yelling and you're whispering.
Yeah. So for me, it is definitely, I like the way it looks, but it's also just, been just natural for me. Like it almost feels like the continuation of, the journal. And it's funny because I do text like that too.
Okay.
And I chose to, and then it can really throw people off. It's kind of this funny thing, but I know for me, I like, it's not just that I like how it looks, it's a continuation of what I'm usually doing, which feels more like, just connected to the pen to paper thing instead of everything else.
For sure. That's really cool.
But yeah, I don't know if you knew that. Did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
So
I'm learning that for the first time too.
Leading the way on this one.
Yeah,
I am the
it's the Marine Ice show on that one.
It's really cool.
You just go with it.
It's
totally,
a cool aesthetic.
It looks great.
Like
yeah, I like it too. So.
I like it too.
Amazing. That's really cool. I wanted to ask specifically about a certain song, Off Night songs, called Dream Work. Because this is one of my favorite songs by you guys. With that horn loop. I think it's a horn loop at least. And just, It's not, is it guitar? Of course it is.
What's that bass?
Oh, it's the bass.
Right, it's a 6-string bass, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Everything on that album is either just bass and voice and guitar. The only other song that has another instrument is the last song, which is piano. But everything else is bass, and if you hear nothing other than like a sound in her voice, then it's just my bass and her voice.
Oh, wow.
But we do everything through pedal board. So I've got a lot of stuff where I'm adding octaves through like shimmer verbs and things. So it sounds very orchestral and horn-like. And because the way I play the bass, it's really weird. I use a swell. Well, we both do. We use a volume pedal to swell things into our pedal boards. And that gives us this sort of like bowed, almost even blown effect, depending on how I attack the strings. If I give it a little more bite, it'll give me more edge to give it like a horn. Mm-hmm. And if I go a little softer, it'll get a little more rounded edge to be like a sort of muted string intro. So it's just all about, just manipulating the attacks of coming in. And that's what we use volume pedal for a lot and stuff. So that is all on Dreamwork. It is just bass and voice. That's it.
Wow.
And there's only 3 tracks. The bass part that you hear was based on a sound-on-sound loop using El Cap, and it just keeps going. Mm-hmm. And I just add to it here and there, but that's just bass. And then her vocals were also live through the El Cap, through a pedal board. So that whole album is mainly a lot of live takes. Mm-hmm. So it's like I did a part, one pass, one take, then she comes in, gets on the mic, and does her part, and that was it. That's a lot of that album. That's kind of like why our live show is pretty much the same thing. It's like if we're going to do a show and write, that's kind of how we do it. It's like one takes.
Wow.
Yeah, which makes it difficult for mixing.
For sure.
Because if there's something that gets caught, and then you got to like try to go in RX and find the little clip that keeps repeating, and so it's fun. But yeah, we make it work.
That's surprising, though. I mean, with that whole album, wow.
Yeah.
Good job on that one.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, thank you.
It would have taken me like 50 takes just to get the one thing, but I guess that's the sort of the point of it, right? In a sense.
Yeah, it's just being in the moment. I mean, and our stuff tends to sort of keep to a simple musical motif. I don't really go to jazzy stuff. So it's a little easier for us to kind of stay in that place. And our stuff tends to stay in either like a major pentatonic or minor and just kind of doesn't flow too much out of that. And it works. It works for capturing the moment, capturing the energy. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're just trying to capture this thing inside of us and share it.
For sure. I think at some point Cynthia told me about how you always use the bass for your drones and a lot of the ambient stuff. And I hadn't really heard anybody else do that, at least to my knowledge. I'm sure a lot of people do. I do a little bit. I started messing around with it like 2 albums ago because I got a 5-string as well. So like, the upper register with the super low is like, you get this really full sound.
Yes.
But is that what you sort of started playing? Was bass or?
Yeah, I actually my first instrument was trumpet when I was like growing up in elementary school. But I saw a picture of Dizzy Gillespie like where his cheeks were blown out when I was like, I think I might have been like 7 or 8 or something, and I was like, is that what happens? And I quit. So I stopped playing trumpet because I thought like my cheeks were going to get like dumb, whatever. But no one told me differently.
Also shows how little you were.
Yeah, I was small. Whatever. So, I was small. But then I from there, never really took any other musical lessons. I played keyboard a bit, and it was totally by ear. And I started playing bass because at the time I was in like a band with a bunch of friends, and they needed a bass player to play like cover songs. So I learned bass by just playing cover songs and stuff. And then I ended up going, okay, well, I actually feel really comfortable with the instrument, and I used it in my ambient music. I've actually been using bass in ambient music since my first album.
Wow.
So Atmospherics, which was in 1994, I had a fretless bass that I played with a bow on that album a lot. I mean, and, looper pedals like we have now weren't really around. So it was me like in real time on the DAT while other stuff was playing, like trying not to fuck up. No, sorry, trying not to mess up and get the right notes and stuff. And then, my bass playing is, I would say I can get the job done for my own music on the bass, but I'm not really someone that can jam with other people so much.
Yeah.
Like, hey, let's play the song. I'd be like, yeah, what fret is that start on? Like, because I don't know the notes. I can get there, but like if I look at a fretboard, I don't know what I'm doing, and it's all shapes. It's all shapes and things and
you
registers.
Do know what you're doing.
Yes, but not to the point like play me this scale. I'd be like, yeah, can you play it for me? Oh, it's that. Okay, and like musical memory, I have.
Yeah.
But it's the technical like understanding of interplay. I don't have that much. I should probably learn that stuff at some point if I'm going to make a career out of this. And then for you. Oh, you were just talking about the bass. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been an instrument that I feel most comfortable with. And then recently I just got a Fender Bass 6, a Squire Classic 5 Bass 6, which I modified quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've been using a lot more on our newer stuff that we've been working on, because that even expands the range out a little bit more. Since it's like literally an octave below a guitar, so I can get that low E up to the low E on the guitar in there, so I can get a little bit more upper range stuff, which is nice when you get up on the neck. It's a quirky little beast, but I love it.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it's a fun bass. Yeah.
Sick. So getting into that, gear talk, you guys obviously get very excited and inspired by new gear and just learning the ins and outs.
There's a little joke where like, I don't know if you've seen like the meme where people say like, babe, something just dropped. Well, for us, it's always like, yo, babe, new mood just dropped.
Yeah.
Babe, new Big Sky just dropped. It's like, we're always like, yo, did you see the new Strymon?
Yeah. It's cool because they're all tools, They're all just, they can, any kind of pedal could bring out a whole new side of you. And I think just like, any instrument could as well, but it just, for where our brains go with it,
we see possibilities.
Yeah, and that can happen, with plugins too. But totally, mainly, like we do, all of my music involves like out of the box.
Yeah, you do a lot of gear.
Yeah, so we do definitely get excited about that. Although my pedal board hasn't changed in over a year. It's not like it's constantly changing. But the focus, like for the record I'm working on, I'm using similar things, but in different ways. Although the one new that's made a lot of changes is the Osmos.
Oh yeah, the Osmos. We just got it
right back here.
I was actually able to, because of my
so that's
my
a pretty big
affiliation with
add-on.
Yeah. I was able to get one early because I knew the guys from Expressive E from my job where I work with for Spectrasonic, so we kind of knew each other, and I was able to get one pretty early on, so I was really happy. They're great, wonderful synthesizer. Can't say enough nice things about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're still getting to know it a lot, and that's the thing. If you really, really do spend time with something, it can, you can always be learning new things.
100%. And for me, it's like one of the things is if you don't have the time, it almost not ruins it, but like I sold my OP1 because I just didn't have the time to really dig into it, and I had it for over a year, and I was like, okay, like then this isn't it, if in a year I'm not going to spend 20 hours on it, then I'm never going to, you know what I mean? So like something like the Osmosis, which is so deep, it's crazy. It's the reason I don't really get into like physical synths. I'm all about the pedals and the tape machines and the loopers and all this, but actual synths is just, my brain doesn't work that way. So it's really cool that you guys got it though. I can't wait to hear it on new records. And
it's all over. It's all over her new album that she's working on, right? You've got some
and when did we end up getting that? That was
December.
In December. Okay. Yeah. So that started shifting things a lot for me.
Yeah. And it was pretty early on in the process too, and it's the most important thing I think for any instrument is like how quickly can you get from the point of like first stepping up to it to start to feel connected enough to where you can emote. And I would say out of any instrument I've played, hardware instrument I've played recently, the Osmos is the quickest. Like you think it's deep, but the depth is just in your playing. It's in how you interact with it.
Yeah.
So as far as like getting into the synthesis aspects, that's not what this is. This is a physical synthesizer. You know, it's kind of like the for a second we both touched it. It's just like, oh, this is different. This is not like, let me tweak the knobs. This is like, let me change how I'm shifting from note to note and how I'm playing, and everything changes your perception about what your connection is to a synthesizer. Because normally it's knobs, right? But this is all finger. And this is all how you're playing and where you're playing. It's so crazy. You should try one. You should definitely try one.
I wish.
Sorry, this is not supposed to turn into an Osmos commercial, but we do love this synthesizer.
Yeah. Amazing. Oh, man. Yeah, I really do need to try it.
If you get your hands on it, when you get your hands on one, hit record immediately before you start playing. Yeah. Because you're going to start to play stuff that you're going to be like, whoa, what did I just do? Like,
yeah, it's hard to get back to it, kind of.
Yeah, record.
Oh, amazing. That's actually, I mean, I feel like that's good advice for pretty much any piece of new gear, right? The exploration stage is like the stage to explore and make sure that you have the samples.
That's kind of our saying, right? I'm like, always be recording. That's kind of my motto. It's always been. It's just like, as soon as you turn something on and I'm going to start to emote, I'm hitting record. And I may delete it later. I may find a moment, but it's always captured, you know, which is almost why we have so many folders full of stuff. But
that's one of the first things I remember when we got together that you would say to me. And then it like turned into ADR, like the abbreviation came from it. Like ADR.
ADR.
Always be recording.
Always be recording.
Like I was just, you know, this was early on when we first got together. I was just sitting like playing some of these, you know, songs, my acoustic guitar songs, and he was like, wait, what are you doing? You know, and then was like got the mic, you know, obviously had his stuff with him, and you know, got it all set up, and I'm happy that you recorded those songs. I mean, I've never released those, but it definitely did capture a moment. It was literally just me, you know, sitting on the bed and, you know, playing a song I'd been working on, and that was the ABR. Yep. That was when it came in.
It was.
Right out the gate.
Right out the gate.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah. There's nothing like going through like an old folder and finding tracks that you were like, I forgot this existed. And I guess with this sort of rule that you guys have going, happens all the time. It's like taking photos all the time.
It does happen a lot. It actually happens a lot. Cynthia textures.
It was Cynthia.
There's like Cynthia textures going up into the hundreds at this point, I think. I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it would be Cynthia textures with the date. But now I call it Marine Ice texture.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, there was a blatant shift from Cynthia texture to Marine Ice texture. It happened. So we know that like if we pull up something that's Cynthia texture, there's a definite time period that happened in.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, how we all name our things.
Oh I hope you have a good naming convention for your files, because mine's the worst.
I literally, for a while there, mine was just like thing 1, thing 10. But now, thankfully, I do date things. So I'm getting better.
Good for you. We could use tips on that.
I always am dating things now.
I date things, but then like whatever I put around the date is usually it's like the worst thing I can think of, like at the time. I don't know.
Yeah, synth thingy. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2.
Bass loop 1. Well, I have like 20 of those. How many times did I start over?
For sure. Oh man. So with the new record, you mentioned that there's like drone and, you know, synth in there, maybe a little bit of indie, whatever, you know, a bunch of different genres. Yeah. And you guys have sort of always done this cross-genre stuff, a little bit at least. Is there any sort of genre that you guys wish, or not wish, but want to go down further in the future?
We always joke about like our alter egos that do like really like in your face like electronic music. Like, you know, she's talking about hers is going to be Pocket Prisms, and, you know, and I don't know, what am I going to be again?
Well, I take so many photos. Like, we have our like other like names of what
we're both Gemini, so there's a lot of us in the room at any one given time. So.
Yeah. But I mean, I would say we used to like joke around about that a bit more.
Yeah.
Like, and even like follow through on some of it too. But
we have some songs that were like heading down the line of like, beat driven sort of stuff, but we haven't really gone back to them in a bit, but maybe.
Yeah. I feel like we could do whatever we're feeling at the moment, so I'm sure other things will happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I would say, is there anything I could say that we might explore? We haven't explored
We
yet.
talked about
Maybe
doing like dub.
Yeah, like a dub techno,
very chill dub techno album.
EP or of some sort.
We've also talked about doing more of like a forward, like full on, more like some
ambient
verse
folky
chorus
kind of thing. Yeah.
The verse chorus, like more like ambient shoegaze leaning, because and that will happen. Like, I know that it's going to happen in songs.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting to see that translated as like this is what this album is about. So we'll see.
Or something.
We'll see what happens. I know that we will be working on more music with From Overseas, who's like one of our best friends, and we love that album.
I just had a baby last night too.
Yay!
Kevin and Claire,
yeah.
Little baby from overseas.
But we'll be working on music with him again. And we'll see what happens with that.
He's going to have a lot to talk about now.
Yeah.
He's going to have a lot to capture,
But yeah, we'll see. I'm always open to trying out something else.
Yeah, I'm mostly open. I have certain styles of music that there's just no way you're going to get me near it. But I won't say what those are because that's just me. But yeah, But we have, we are going into an unusual place, like with an album of mine coming up in when is that coming out again? Is it November, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have another album coming out, a collaboration in November, and Cynthia is guested on one of the songs, and it's very much like ambient country almost. Cool. Like, it's weird. It's like a bass loop that kind of feels kind of Americana country-esque, and then our vocals come in, so it's an interesting hybrid. So I mean, we're just like wherever it takes us, except certain places, but wherever it takes us.
We also did a remix that's coming this summer that also leans into that
ambient country vibe,
just with the source material. Beautiful track. And so that was like, we really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, I think that might be a place we could.
Was a surprising thing for us, but we just really leaned into that. So that could be cool.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. For sure.
We'll make a folder.
Yeah.
I like that we can decide like what we, that we don't feel confined.
Yeah.
I do really
and I like that people have been okay with that and actually haven't been like, why are you going into this area? Or, just sort of like, okay, we have a lot of sides to us. We have a lot of types of music that we enjoy that we can incorporate into the sort of the mindset of where we go with ambient and sort of slowing things down, stripping things back, but being in those genres and those spaces with that mindset,
Yeah. I would love to see an ambient folk Awakened Souls record. It's something that I feel like is becoming more prevalent lately, like especially maybe I've just been getting more and more into it, like the Annies of the world and sort of Black Brunswickers and stuff like this.
Oh yeah, we love his stuff. It's amazing.
So I've been obsessed. It's really, really great stuff, and you guys would obviously kill it, and I want everybody to get into it. I want everybody to do an ambient folk record or an ambient country record. I think that'd be really, really cool.
I mean, there's something warm and comforting about it, right? It's sort of like the old, the sounds that you're familiar with, the acoustics, the kind of that energy, but like different, And
I definitely go there with what I've been working on.
Yeah,
I have
your new album has a lot.
2 songs especially that feel like if Marina has met Bon Iver.
Oh, nice. There we
kind
go.
of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And like with words and everything. So I definitely went there for a few songs, and they feel very, I would say they're ambient folk.
Oh, absolutely.
Ambient folk indie.
Yep.
But, so I love that. And that also blends with where I came from, like I just, for so many years, all I did was play with my acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
And even when I would, play not also so wonderfully, but I would play out in college a bit, and I was always barefoot when I would play. I always had my acoustic guitar. I did start bringing in the electric guitar a little bit, but I didn't even have any pedals or anything. I was just like, would just go play.
Just raw.
So yeah, that definitely feels like coming back to my roots, coming back home a bit.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that one. It's gonna be so
Thank
good.
you.
Oh yeah.
Amazing. I got a couple a couple of fan questions.
Cool.
Cool.
Which, they always tend to be a little bit basic, but that's fine. That's fun, right?
Sure.
Over the years, what artists and bands have sort of inspired Awakened Souls the most, do you think?
That's a lot. You want to start on that one?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Put
That's a big one,
on
yeah.
the spot.
Well, I would say, early on with Awakened Souls, we were listening to a ton of Hammock.
Oh
okay.
yeah, Hammock
That
was
makes sense.
Always listening
huge
to
in
Hammock.
our early days.
But then there's also just so many other, that would be a lot of like while we were cooking, just always having on Hammock for a few years there, and that was like towards the beginning. But like as of more recently, we were actually talking about this earlier, and James always puts on.
Oh, dub. I always put like on reggae or techno, reggae or dub reggae or what's the one album I usually put on? Oh, well, no. When it comes to ambient stuff, like, yeah, if I'm not listening to like something I've just worked on or something I'm mastering or what have you, it's probably Jogging House.
Oh, amazing.
Boris's stuff is just...
Yeah, he's always listening to
his sense of space, his sense of his cadence of this stuff, the tones, just I love his stuff. It's amazing. It's just really good background listening music. I love Austin stuff, our Benny stuff as well. But like, it's interesting because we come from different generations in ambient. Like, the stuff I grew up listening to in the ambient I listened to was like, Pete Namlook, Fex, like all of the early 90s classic stuff. And so I kind of bring that in sometimes when we're cooking or listening. And she's been more of the newer sort of the second generation of more ambient into like indie, into post rock and stuff like that, which I missed complete.
So like there is a difference with that in a way. Like when I was listening to like Broken Social Scene, Fielded Lost on repeat forever, I
was making like angry electronic music for a bit. So it was like we were.
That album definitely. I still listen to that album a lot. So that was like the roots for me.
Yeah.
But then, we're going to go see The Cure tomorrow night.
Nice.
Like we have a lot of, we really just kind of depends on what our mood is. But, and we also listen to our friends' music a lot.
Yeah, we do.
And doing what I do with the monthly playlist with Women of Ambient, I'm always listening to new music. And that's always been a thing for me. I've always loved researching and finding new music. And so I'm constantly being lit up by, just the sheer amount of gorgeousness that's coming out every week, and I just never run out of things of gorgeous new music that I'm finding, and new artists, new albums from artists I already love. And another album we've had on a lot though lately is Stereo Mind Game by
the
Daughter.
New Daughter album.
Oh, I haven't
gorgeous.
It's really good.
Really good.
So we've been listening to that a lot when we're not listening to more ambient.
Skull Crusher as well. Right?
Yes, Skull Crusher. Really good.
A Midwife I'm listening to, but a lot of this stuff is her. She is much more on top of what's happening musically than I am. I will try and look for new stuff, but I tend to like live in places that I like and just kind of stay there. It's not like I'm not open to new music. I just don't actively search for it a lot now as much as I used to, even though it's easier now to do that. It's a lot easier now than it used to be to go find new music, but I guess, yeah, I don't know. But Cynthia is always finding new stuff. She's, every Thursday night, midnight, 9 o'clock hits here in California, and she's looking to see who's got the new stuff coming out. And so in case there's someone that she's missed for her thing. So she's always like on top of that, which is great because it's like I don't really have to look for new music because she always provides new music. So she's kind of made me a little bit lazy because she's so good at it.
Well,
yeah, but that's been my thing forever. I remember when I would go to Barnes and Noble to study in early college, and they had this thing called Red Dot, and it was like the first of its kind where you could like look at something and then it would be like similar artists and you could preview the album before buying it. And I was just like, I would not study a whole lot in those moments because I just wanted to find new music. I mean, I found Interpol that way when Turn on the Bright Lights came out. And like, I just have all these memories of just like going deep into that. Obviously it is pretty easy to look if you want to right now.
Yeah, I find now though, since it is so easy, it's harder to connect. Like even you just having that story being in Barnes and Noble, and James, I'm sure you have in record shops. And
Like Tower Records for me. Yeah,
exactly. Like when you actually found something that you just loved and you were able to like hold it in your hand, kind of thing. It's a lot easier to really connect and want to go back to that. Sometimes now it's you hear a song, you know it's great, but you never go back to it. You know what I mean?
Because it's too easy, right?
Exactly.
It's too easy to find it again.
Exactly.
I mean, it took work. You know, you had to go to a place. You had to physically go there, and sometimes they had listening stations, so you had to put work in to listen to it. And to be like, oh, is it just the one song on the album I like, or does the rest of it sound good? Because, you know, there's a lot of times where it's like, love the one song. What is the rest of this album doing right now?
Exactly.
And, you know, definitely getting burned, buying CDs and being like, this isn't really a great album. You know,
sure.
It's different, you know. I guess for now it's I don't know. It's easier, but maybe that's why it's so difficult, right? Because it's so easy to find it, but it's harder to connect with it. You know, It all comes down to the story, right? If we connect with the story, and if there's no story, it's hard to connect with.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel different that I'm just always finding new.
Yeah, I'm not saying there isn't stuff that's out there. There's definitely stuff out there that
it can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, but I urge people to continue on and keep looking, and there's always going to be something waiting for you. I mean, there really always is, and it's probably just around the corner. And then it could, you know, there's still so many full-length albums too, from start to finish.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I still enjoy the album format.
Yeah, I love the album format, and that's just such a big thing for us, that like seeing somebody that you know, like you can just feel that they really just immerse themselves entirely in it. Like there's just a magic about it that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah,
for sure. So the final question, which is also a little bit of a tough one. I am glad I'm not on your guys' side to answer this one. But one that we always get is for people that are starting now, like, do you have advice, you know, with releasing music or even creating music or whatever? Like if you were to start now and you were able to tell yourself one thing, what would that be, do you think?
You can go first.
You have thoughts?
Do you have?
I have thoughts.
Yeah. I'll say something after. 'Cause...
Try not to watch other people too much.
That's a great one. Yeah.
Shut off the phone, immerse yourself in what it is, and to remove outside distractions for as much as possible when you're in it. Now, I know for some people that's weird, because some people, and I've witnessed this, some people actually create music while watching movies or things like that. I know for some people it's much more of a visual aspect, so if that's where you need to go, cool. But if you're not someone that requires some sort of visual aspect to create music, then like disconnect from the internet for that time. Mm-hmm. And don't pay too much attention to what other people are doing and how frequently they're doing it, because it's not a race. It's not a race. And we're not competition.
Yeah, we've been talking about that too.
You know, like we're all just trying to emote and connect, and remember the why. Remember the why of why you want to do it. For sure. Keep that, you know, in front of your mind as much as possible. Why am I doing this? And if it's, you know, that's whatever that why is, that should be your driving.
I definitely agree with all of that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that, you know, to add on, you know, turning things off, it's also like in the last few years for me to have like community has been really incredible. So, you know, a lot of people are going to say things, but I read a lot of Brené Brown, and she says, you know, if you're not in the arena as well, like there's a lot of people who might say things to you, but you need to kind of take that with like, not everyone's going to like you, you know, and that's okay, you know? So to somebody starting off, I would definitely say, you can find a tribe, you can find your community, and not everyone's going to like what you do, but as long as you're doing it from your heart and you're translating that, there's going to be people who connect with that.
Yeah.
So just keep, and that goes along with what you were saying with the why, but there's going to be people who connect with that. If you're doing this, like, from this place in you, that's like, like share. From that pure place, which I think, so much music is just comes from whatever feeling it may be, but coming from that place that really is truly you translating something of what's going on, then there's going to be people out there who want to listen to that.
100%.
And don't be afraid to share,
Yes. Share. Don't be afraid to share.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that goes along with knowing that not everyone will like what you share.
And I guess the best advice is
don't look at album of the year or Discogs or any of that stuff.
And imposter syndrome is something that every single one of us has experienced and will experience at many times in our career. So you're not alone. It's perfectly normal to feel that, but ignore that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. These are great. Yeah, and I can second that. Don't look at album of the year or Discogs comments.
Yeah.
Because those are the only place you'll really find negative comments, unless you're unlucky.
Well, yeah, and if you look, sure, there can be some good things too, but I think I did that early on, and, it's just like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, especially you were like, don't do it.
Don't look at Discogs. Don't go there.
But more than any of that, it's just about, be yourself.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I love that. I just want to say thank you guys for being on this. I can't wait for the new album. I can't wait to go back today and listen to your whole discography again. This has been really great. Really, really great.
Oh, thank you so much, Brady. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all that you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. Great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. If you enjoyed this one, be sure to check out Awakened Souls Music, and also be sure to hit like and subscribe or follow the podcast. See you soon for episode 29.